Welcome to the Plant-Based Podcast. Did you know that plants are truly amazing? Not only can you grow them and eat them, you can also wear them, drink them, nourish your skin with them, and so much more. Let Ellen and Michael inspire you to love plants as much as they do, as they chat with the movers and shakers in this wonderful plant-based world. So, let's dig in.
Series 9 is brought to you with Lava Light. Whether you're a novice gardener, specialist grower, or houseplant enthusiast, Lava Light can help you to nourish and protect your plants all year round. The collection comprises of 8 different horticultural growing media and pest control products, with each continually offering the same natural benefits from thermal protection and moisture retention to soil conditioning and continued nutrient boosts. Derived from volcanic deposits, Lava Light is completely natural and sustainable. Look out for it online and in your local gardening stores.
Jess Russell-Perry is with us on the podcast. We love Jess and just know you all will too. Usually, as Managing Director of Silverball PR, Jess is the one organising these kind of interviews for her clients. But today the roles have switched and she is here with us to chat about her career and all about the world of PR in horticulture. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Yeah, I think you took a little bit of convincing because, like we said, you usually are the other side of things, usually organising the people to be interviewed. But you're the girl that we want to speak to. I think when I first asked you, were like, "What, me? Really?"
Yeah,
but I think you're very interesting.
Me too, definitely.
So we're going to start right at the beginning because we know that you now work in horticultural PR, and we're going to talk about that in a lot of the podcasts. But first up, what did you do before that? Tell us what you did from your college years up until you worked in Hort PR, please.
Okay. How long have we got? Because I've worn many hats.
Okay.
When I first left college, I wanted to go into the world of advertising. So a slightly circuitous route, but I did eventually end up at M&C Saatchi as an ad exec, as a grad trainee, actually, and worked on things like the Millennium Dome. That was fun. Actually, was amazing. It was amazing, but it was a bit of a difficult drive because it wasn't very well received at the time. I don't know if you remember, but it was an amazing opportunity and experience, and I absolutely loved it. But I came to the conclusion that I didn't want to potentially settle down in London. So I was talking to a friend of mine and thinking about what to do outside of London because I was very much in film and TV adverts, and there wasn't much out of London that I wanted to work on, out of film and TV that I wanted to work on. And so a friend of mine said, "Look, you love design, you love plants. Why don't you think about garden design?" And I'd done my RHS certificates and things like that, so I've always been a huge fan of plants, and from a very early age, my mum going on walks and things like that and her pointing out things to me and grandparents and stuff, which is how so many of us get our first love, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And so I thought, well, that's quite a good idea. So I looked into it and I ended up going to the Oxford College of Garden Design, which was run by a guy called Duncan Heather, and that's where I met some of the people that I work with now, actually. So that's where Catherine MacDonald, she was my contemporary. She was top of the class, obvs. She's amazing. And a couple of other people as well that are now practicing sort of abroad. Marilyn Mental is in Estonia, and then Sean Kelly is in Chicago. And we had quite a good, Joe Lang worked for Anthony Paul. We had quite a good group. And so I did that for a bit, but then the crash happened and everyone was really tightening their belts. And I thought, I think maybe now might be the time to have a family. So then I decided to grow children for a bit. So I did that. And then I very much felt that I wanted to get back into a world that I was more familiar with. I always found design quite challenging, not in the fact that I didn't like doing it, but I found the presentation of it and that exposure that you put yourself, that you expose yourself to criticism, don't you, when you create a design? And I thought, no, I want to go back into comms, but this time I went back into PR rather than advertising, with a really, really dear friend of mine, Annie. And so we started Silverball PR, and I specialised in horticulture and events, and she specialised in travel and hospitality. So that's how Silverball was born, really. And then we just over the years, she left the company in 2016. I took it on my own with the rest of the team, and then we very much sagged into horticulture. We do still do other few bits, but
Jess, you're such a pro. You've just answered about 4 questions in one.
Sorry.
We haven't asked questions yet. I'm like nervous.
Oh, I never wanted this. It's you two.
No, we're glad that you're comfortable. There is a lot more we want to know. Don't worry.
So Jess, we're very pro, right, at this. We have a spreadsheet and it's open while we're chatting with you. So we've got the questions, and we're always really used to obviously switching them around so we can see who's typing what, like Google Sheet thing. And and we're just next question, tick, next question, tick, next question.
Bless you.
Oh gosh, I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry. It's awesome. I will just go back to your the thing that you mentioned about garden design, landscape architecture, how it can be quite stressful. So when I first finished all my qualifications, I decided garden design was totally the thing that I was going to do. And that's what I done, and I had to move out of it, and that's really where I ended up going into doing the media work, because I found it so stressful. It's someone else's garden, and then I don't mind constructive criticism at all, because that's really good for your growth, but I couldn't take the real critical nature of things that you do. I literally found it so hard.
I know, the responsibility. The responsibility, because gardens are so important. For me, maybe I'm just projecting, but they're so important for us, and it's become so much more apparent over the last couple of years, hasn't it? How important those spaces are. So there was something inherent in me that when I was being given these briefs or these objectives to fulfill, and although I loved doing the creative work, when it came to actually presenting, I would just tie myself up in knots. The imposter syndrome was very real. And it was, I like you, I just found it so stressful that it actually became unpleasant. And so now if I do it for friends, and I do it for a beer or a cup of tea or just so I can come around and enjoy it with them. I won't, commercializing your hobby sometimes can become.
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. That's what a lot of people think when they come into horticulture as a career, kind of career changes. They kind of don't always look at it realistically. I think you need to have kind of not rose-tinted glasses at all.
No, because if it is going to be a source of income for you, you do have to look at it as being that. And when you do commercialize something, it changes its nature, and sometimes it's joyous and it's an absolute gift. But so many, especially for women in horticulture, it is a lot of second careers. For various different reasons, which we definitely don't need to go into here. But I think it's really important to understand what changes you're going to have to make when you're then delivering or engaging in that, as it were. I have full admiration for anyone who's working in landscape architecture, garden design. I think it's really admirable and doing amazing things, but that definitely was not the world for me, for sure. No. Like you. But it does mean that I can pull that unique skill set potentially within the PR world into then delivering for my clients. So I can ghostwrite pieces because I have the knowledge, both plant or design, to be able to pick up on stuff.
Gives you a good advantage, doesn't it? Yeah.
It does.
Absolutely. And also, it's I think we'll talk about it a little bit more, and giving some tips for anyone who would like to work, in this kind of field. That having a background in what it is you're trying to, help with is so useful.
It sounds so simple, but a lot of people don't do it.
Yeah, understanding your client. Totally.
A lot of people don't do it because horticulture is a specialism. Design is a specialism. But even just an interest. I've had people work for me that have had no knowledge whatsoever about horticulture, but they have a general interest in the world around us, and then they've then learnt about the gardens that we might be PRing for Chelsea or whatever, or for some of the RHS shows that we've worked on. And it's really lovely to see that sort of development come about, and then suddenly they're buying houseplants, and then they're it's just wonderful. And it is an amazing world, and the people in it are just bloody lovely.
Yeah. Cool.
That's what we like.
Compared to that advertising world.
Little different, and little different to the other different industries that I've worked in PR. There's very much horticulture journalists and lifestyle journalists are definitely really, as a whole, pleasant people. And also you're sharing a love of something. If you're passionate about something, people,
and it's a nice product as well.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It is. And it's incredibly important as well now, as it was before, but now just people are realising that.
Yeah, it's more recognised as being so important now. So, Jess, what we'd love to know, what, apart from today, because obviously you started your day doing something completely different, which is being interviewed yourself, what is the day in the life of the PR pro Jess like? What do you each day? Tell us a day in your life.
Gosh, there really isn't one day that's the same, because it depends. When we're in showtime, then it's very different because the timeline of things is ever changing, and we're having to respond to both journalists requesting things, or actually coming direct to us, or journalists putting stuff out saying, I want to talk to so and so about such and such. Or we might be trying to come up with a photo call opportunity for Chelsea. So then that's really thinking really creatively, and then we're sourcing suppliers, and we're coming up with the actual ideas. The ideation of those opportunities. Or it could be, I remember one day when we were working on something on one of the RHS shows. And we literally started talking about a fashion show there was a fashion show. Oh no, that was an agricultural show. But we did start talking about a fashion show for sheep in the morning. Yeah. Then we were sourcing a costume I was talking to the RSC to try and get some kind of historical costume that could look right for a queen bee, that I was a character that I was creating, and then also trying to source blue paint that would be able to cover someone from head to foot, but they would also not die from not being able to breathe properly. It's just crazy. It's just really crazy. And then also, or you might be pitching into doing a press release sellout, so you're contacting all national, regional, specialist press and pitching into them, and sometimes making the team. That sounds awful, but we used to take it in turns to get on the phones to phone in and pitch in our story ideas. And phoning some of those newsrooms is literally a baptism of fire, because journalists in newsrooms can be absolutely terrifying.
Yeah, you must need to develop a really thick skin, right? How does it work? Yeah.
It doesn't. Yeah. You just always have tissues and a shoulder.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, some of them are really. Honestly, horrible.
Why is that then? Because they know what a good story is when they hear one, or they hear a lot of stuff. They have to be tough.
And it's a bit of there's a hangover from the ab fab years of,
really?
darling, and a lot of agencies, not so much in horticulture or in specialists, but a lot of agencies just throw enough doodah to hope something will stick, and meaningless, pointless pitching to people.
Oh, really? So they become aware of that and hardened to that.
And also they're incredibly time poor. Newsrooms have to move really quickly. They need relevant information. They need the facts. Who, how, what, where, when. Boom, done. You've got 10, 15 seconds to say what you need to say, and then if they're interested, they're interested. If they're not, they'll either tell you to go away or worse, or just hang up on you. And actually, phoning in now is not something we do so much, because we've got the contacts that we need to have, and we know we keep really well abreast of who's doing what when.
Well, so I imagine a lot of it is about connections, isn't it? But that obviously works quite well. But then how do you then break into like new areas when it's all about connections? Do you see what I mean? If you want to get into a new title, how do you go in there completely cold, for example?
You do research. So, there are databases that you can pay for, but they're really expensive. So if you're a freelancer or a small agency, they are really expensive. If you want to talk to somebody, if you find a magazine that you need, your client has said, we want to be in Country Life, go and buy Country Life, and then research, and then you'll see who's talking about what when. We've always got a back catalogue, so we know what people are talking, what people are talking about at what times of the year. So you just have to do your research, and go on things like Twitter and look at donor requests and stuff like that. But a lot of it is, so if I know that I've got something that, for example, you, Michael, could feature on the things that you do, I'll just message you and tell you about them, won't I? And then you'll go, yeah, it's a goer, or no, it's not quite right.
I guess what people have to bear in mind, it does move quickly, and sometimes... I don't know, sometimes if we want to perfect an idea, we, like as humans, we don't want to move quickly, but you just have to with PR. You have to just be... and that can be difficult, and it's not for everyone, because if you don't have if you're not able to multitask, it's perfect for people with things like ADHD who can think about 10 different things at the same time and hyper focus. Your children might not get fed until 10 o'clock at night, but... microwaves.
Exactly. But I have seen people that are really good at what they do, as in they're great at writing, or they're really great at doing research. They have great ideas, but they can't quite cope with the fast-paced nature of it. And maybe then what they need to do is go in-house and just work for one person rather than agencies. When at our height, pre-pandemic, we had 16 clients, and we only had a team of 5. So that was a lot all the time.
And I guess clients can be demanding because, of course, you're providing them a service, aren't you, at the end of the day? And especially, they're demanding because they have to meet objectives. They have people that they have to report to. And also, I work with people that I like. And so they can be quite small, but then that small contribution, what seems like potentially in billing terms is small, for them it's really significant. So you have to take that into account as well. And because I really love what I do, it's really difficult not to just get really involved and think, that would, can we just do that? And this, and it's hard. I have to rein myself in.
But that's the sign of someone who's really passionate about what they do, and people, individuals and companies love to work with people like you, because they know that you have the knowledge and the passion for what you do. So this is going to bring me on to something just now, that earlier on you said you weren't very good at when it came to presenting your ideas, you'd get sort of in a little bit in a twist about it. But I'm now going to ask you to sell yourself. Are you ready for this?
Oh my God, no, don't. No. No.
We want you to do our PR. This is your live pitch.
You haven't already. Like, we don't already know how amazing you are. But there's a lot of companies who question why they would need PR. And Michael and I both get it. But for a listener right there, say a landscaping or horticulture company, what can PR do for their company?
Okay, so a lot of people that don't get PR think it's just about ego and it's about going, I'm the best. What PR needs always, and I say this to anybody, even if I'm pitching, is we need to have objectives. We need to set objectives. It's either a new product, a new service, an anniversary. There's got to be something that we're talking about, or we have to generate that ourselves in the form of potentially, and that's where stunts come in. But it always, the most successful PR leads back to something, so that you have a return, so that you can actually see, okay, well, we launched our new product then, but we didn't do any PR until then, and then look at the upturn in visits to the website, in sales and everything. And I'm quite proud of the fact that I'd like to say all of the work that we've done has always given a return on that investment, and usually, multiple whatever fold.
Let's go with tenfold.
Like little things. So like using the photo call. A lot of clients originally, when I first started working at Chelsea in sort of 2015, didn't kind of get the photo call. They didn't seem to want to invest in it. But one of the best ones that I did, well, the one last autumn, Chelsea, for Parsley Box, we did something and we managed to get the front cover of the Times. We were used as the picture the BBC picture for the whole year was our model. And for things like the Wedgwoods, working with the Wedgwood team was amazing because they really, really trusted me. This was probably the most squeaky bum moment of my entire career. Can I say squeaky bum moment? I don't know.
Yes.
When you've got a top British brand going, okay, we're going to trust you with coming up with an idea and putting us on that global stage. And I was incredibly flattered that they went with us. But that the girl that we used was my flower girl for my wedding. We did everything on a budget because we needed to, and yet we got, I can't remember how much the actual coverage, but we got coverage in Ghana. We got coverage, and you might say, well, how's that going to return on Wedgwood? But it was literally global coverage, and we knew we had to go big because we were up against the Duchess of Cambridge, and so we had to do something that grabbed that picture editor's attention. So if you've got something that you want to talk about, I would say that a PR and marketing combined force is what can really spread it out. I think it was Richard Branson or somebody of that ilk that said, there's no point having something new if nobody knows about it. That's a complete misquote, but insert correct quote there. But, if you can have the best product ever, but if nobody knows about it, it's not going to work. You have to let people know about it. And with the advent of the new media landscape with social and all of that, and that can now be utilised as well in getting that message out there.
I'd like to ask something at that point where sometimes in the past, and I've often said to Ellen, I think PR, it feels like a dark art sometimes.
Oh, God, no.
Because it doesn't always, PR will not always translate to like a clear uplift of sales, right? Because you're looking for like brand awareness. But how you can only really measure that through coverage, but then how do you know how far coverage is going to go in people's minds where you can't see that? So there is a degree of kind of guesswork with some of the measuring. Yeah. Surely, how does that go?
I mean, some PRs always go, oh my gosh, no, KPI, when clients talk about KPIs. And actually, I know that feeling because sometimes you can work so hard on something. I remember, oh gosh, should I tell you this? It was a food client actually, quite early on in our career. Mine and Annie, when we were only a small agency, I think we were only 3 or 4. We're still a small agency, but and we had a client that was food, and I don't know whether I should tell you which client it was, but we came up with the idea.
Well, you told us anyway.
Well, anyway, product, I did a load of research on it, and I found out that this food product in the early 15th, 16th centuries was considered to be an aphrodisiac. Mm-hmm. So we told the client this, and they loved it. So we put together this whole campaign about X makes you horny, and we put it out. And we thought it was going to go mental and everyone was going to love it. And the only piece of coverage that we got was the fact that we put out an April Fool's at the wrong time of year. Nobody believed us. But then we've done April Fools that have got loads and loads of coverage, and it was an April Fool. Like, dodos don't exist anymore. You can't have a burger that's made out of a dodo. But I think we got about 16 or 17 pieces of coverage from that. So, but going back to the actual question, which was about being a dark art and measurement, it's difficult to measure in terms of, yes, you can see how many pieces of coverage you got from one release, and then you can track website traffic. You can put specific URLs into that coverage, into those press releases to see how many people click through, so how many tickets are sold from your link, etc., etc. But it has to be really a general upturn in how people are being perceived, the awareness. So we always say you need at least 3 months for anything to start really going in. It takes you 14 viewings to view a house. And I always use that analogy of, you need to see repetition reminds. So just doing one piece of PR or one piece of advertising on one product is not going to see the return that you need. You need to stick at it. And if you're going to go for it, I think you need to have at least a 6 months to a 12-month project contract, so that you can actually see it coming through.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, it's ever competitive, isn't it? If you post one thing or one press release or even one post on Instagram, it's lost. Literally after 24 hours, it's gone, or even less than that. So that makes perfect sense, definitely. Thank you for answering that so well. And I'm sure loads of people are now going to be like, oh, maybe I should get some PR.
Well, the temperature has certainly dropped, hasn't it? It is really, really chilly now. There's a sort of bite in the air. Most of the trees have seemed to drop their leaves, although, of course, there is still the odd little splash of autumn colour. And I'm actually speaking to you from my grandpa's garden this time. Since the last time we spoke, I have managed to plant most of my bulbs, although I still have got all of my pots to do, which I'm just not thinking about. And I realised I definitely had more bulbs than I needed to plant. So what I've done is I've collated just a few little bags together that I thought I'd plant in my grandpa's garden for him, because there's nothing like having a few little pots on your garden furniture which you can look out on from your living room, from your dining room, to just cheer you up when spring comes. I love planting little crocuses in pots because I find those little purple splashes just really, really put a smile on our face when we need it the most. Now, if you're like me and you're only just getting round to planting your bulbs as well, there might be a chance that some of them have gone mouldy. Now, this has happened to me countless times. And in the past, if I'm honest, I haven't really known what to do with them. Like, can you plant them? Can you not? What are you supposed to do? Do you just chuck them away? That seems really wasteful. But at the same time, we don't want to affect all the other bulbs that we've planted. Well, I have learned the best top tip. Did you know that you can peel your tulip bulbs? Just how you would peel an onion, you can peel your tulip bulbs. Literally just remove that top mouldy layer, discard in your garden waste bin, don't put it in your compost because it is a fungus and it will spread, and then just plant your tulip as normal. Plant it in a pot, plant it in the ground, and I promise you it will come up in the spring. Honestly, this blew my mind. I learnt this on my RHS course last year from my amazing teacher who's full of knowledge, and I couldn't believe it, and I have not wasted a bulb since. So I trust you to do the same. I'm just looking at a little area of my grandpa's garden. It's like a small bed in front of the shed. There's a large, lovely fig tree in front of it, and you can see it from the window. So I'm going to try and fill this with colour. I've got loads and loads of daffodils to plant. It's a little bit late for planting daffodils, but they will come up. They might just be a little bit later than we expect, maybe in April or something. But I think it's just really nice to fill this area with colour, make it look really beautiful for the spring. I'm going to go and have a little walk up to the top of the garden where my mum planted a daffodil walk into the little woodlandy area when I was little. Sorry, that was the gate. The further up you get in my grandpa's garden, the wilder it gets. And I just love this sort of huge area of incredible large trees. We've got Pinus sylvestris, we've got a copper beech, and of course it is scattered as well with wonderful rhododendrons and azaleas. It really is a woodlandy garden. But if I walk a little bit further up, my mum and my grandma planted a daffodil walk, which I absolutely love, especially when I was little. I used to come up here and follow the trail and think of it a little bit like a maze. There weren't that many daffodils, but in my head it was very exciting. It's also really lovely at Easter when all the primroses come out, and you can spot and see if there's a lovely little shiny foiled chocolate egg that the Easter bunny has left me. So this is always a really, really special place for me. It's looking a little bit overgrown now, but I might be able to just squeeze in a couple more daffodils. Well, it has been such an honour to talk to you on the Plant Based podcast. Thank you so much to Michael and Ellen for having me. It has been a real treat. And if you want to follow my adventures, please do. I'm over on Instagram at MEMJO Real Davis, REALDAVIES. Happy bulb peeling.
Tell us some of the most amazing jobs that you've done, like maybe something that you just enjoyed so much that you think, yep, I'm so pleased I'm like doing this.
Oh, do you know what? It was probably autumn Chelsea.
Mm-hmm.
There was something a bit special about that anyway. It was a bit of a one-off, but I remember being literally in the bowels of the RSC, walking through the costume department, thinking about the people that had been there before me. I grew up near Stratford, and my godmother claims descent from Anne Hathaway. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But so the RSC has always been a bit special, but to be there and trying to find this costume, that was a bit of a pinch me moment.
And that must have been amazing. Oh my God.
Honestly, Ellen, it was, and you know, when you walk through, you've got all these rows and rows and rows of these amazing costumes. And as you walk through, the lights go on in front of you and off behind you. And I thought I'd be scared, but I wasn't. It was, you know, an atmosphere is really loud.
Yeah, amazing.
There's just the smell and the colours and it was just awesome. The other moment probably was 2018, Mark Gregory's Bothy Garden. And it was about 5:15 a.m. on the morning of press day. And I was wearing Cowell Kirkwood, name drop, Cowell Kirkwood's puffer jacket because I was freezing. And she came.
What was she wearing?
So she had like a shawly thing on, but she took off her puffer jacket and put it on me and said, "I'm hot. You wear this. You look freezing." She was about to present the weather from Mark's garden, from the Welcome to Yorkshire Garden, and I remember standing there, swaddled in this lovely warm downiness of her jacket, in the heady scent of her gorgeous perfume, and then hearing the sort of beep 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 of the sweepers like cleaning up the main avenue, and the sun was up, but that sort of gloaming kind of light, but in the morning, not the evening. And I just thought, this is a memory I'm gonna remember for the rest of my life. It was proper. I can still, if I close my eyes, I can go back there.
Oh, you can still feel it.
Oh yeah. And it's those moments and sharing them with, with amazing people like Mark Gregory, who is just a god of a man. He's just fantastic with what he does for the industry, for the people that work for him. He's just an absolute inspiration. Just amazing. And some of those other people, Jo Thompson's Wedgwood Garden, I think that was the same year, 2018, with the sensuality of the curve, that her first Wedgwood one, and being with her on that was amazing. Jo Perkins' Meta Garden, that lit up at night that was a moment. And Jo and I'd been working with Jo Perkins on that one for nearly 3 years by the time it came out. It was pre-pandemic that garden was planned for. And then probably my show. So being show lead at RHS Malvern, I don't know, the imposter syndrome was huge. You know, when you can't feel something, you can see everything going on around you, but you can't feel it. But I remember on probably one of the day before, the last day of the show, I suddenly had a moment where it all flooded in, and I thought, oh my God, I did this. Which, you guys were there, weren't you? So that was lovely. But yeah.
Oh.
Well, I'm glad we've taken you on a trip down memory lane. That was
so nice to hear about all this.
I have a question before we kind of finish up, and that is, everything you've done has turned out so amazing. You're clearly very creative, and you get really involved and you're passionate. But if something goes wrong, is it true that any news is good news? You know, like if someone was to fall into the pool at a garden at Chelsea, for example, and then that's all over the paper, is that good news still, or is that bad news?
It obviously depends on the situation. If anyone's hurt and things like that, properly hurt, not just had a bit of a dousing and needed warming up or something, I don't think all news is good news. No, I don't. But you can always manage a situation professionally and considerately. I think don't ever try and shy away from something. If you've done something wrong, own it, apologize. The power of forgiveness and the power of saying sorry. I mean, my clients will all tell you that I've sat in meetings and said always offer an apology rather than seeking permission. I bet if the RHS press team listen to this, they'll be like, yes, I know. You've done that to us so many times. But I guess when something goes wrong, you have an opportunity. If you have an opportunity to put another, say sorry or explain privately.
It's easier and quicker, isn't it?
Yeah, just if you've done something wrong. No, if you've done something wrong, say sorry, own it. We're all human, and then people will might vilify you or whatever. But yeah, so no, not all news is good news, but not all PR is good PR, but you can always, it is an opportunity to communicate further.
Okay.
Just before we go, Jess, what's the craziest thing you ever set up for a photo call? Because I think I might know the answer. Was it not naked men? Tell us about that.
Okay, so I was.
Well, she's like doorbell, Ocado. Gotta go.
2015, I think it was. 2015.
Yeah.
2015, and I was walking through. It was when I was leading on press for RHS Malvern.
Yeah.
I'm doing the PR for Malvern for the 5 years that we did. It was just an absolute joy, and I loved it, and I love that show. But it was Friday. I was really tired. I'd been on site since Tuesday, working, crazy 14, 15, 16-hour days. And I was just wandering through, bouncing gently off various different things because I was so tired. And I suddenly thought, it's Naked Gardening Day tomorrow.
Yeah.
I wonder if they've ever done Naked Gardening Day on a show garden. I wonder if I could get any of my show garden designers to pose naked on a garden. And I just turned to my account director at the time, and said, oh, it's Naked Gardening Day tomorrow. And she went, oh, okay. And I went, I reckon we could get some people naked on a garden. And she went, oh my God, Jess, let's do it. And so we did. I went up and there was, we used the Villaggio Verdi garden. We had Rupert Keys and all of his team, Alan and Ruth, his wife. We had Gig Cameron and Mark Evely. Oh my gosh, Graduate Gardens, Charles Price from Graduate Gardens almost stripped off in front of me. He was so keen. Everyone was just and that was incredible. And for the show, that was really good. And every single year that gets pushed back. But we did it again this year at RHS Malvern. That's what you're talking about, isn't it? When,
but also I'd known about the other one as well. So
okay. You've got a bit of a rep for getting your kit off for gardening, haven't you?
Well, I know good PR, Jess.
But I've had my wrist slapped a couple of times at Chelsea when I was doing something for Mark Gregory for a charitable thing for Perennial. And we did a little video with Mark and the guys from Bowls and Wire talking about raising money. And in the background, I had the incredibly gorgeous, hunky Steve Oldman that works for Mark, completely stark naked in the Hartley Botanic greenhouse, watering some Sarracenias. And I got a big slap on the wrist from the Chelsea press team for doing it.
I think that was the one I was thinking of.
Charity.
We like it.
But it keeps you in the headlines, and it keeps your clients in the headlines as well.
Exactly, and that's what I'm about. That's why I don't do this. I want clients to do things like this.
Rebel PR, we like it. Do you have any tips, Jess, for if anyone would like to work in PR? Do they need any qualifications or background or experience?
Well, do you know what? I've only ever taken one person on that's had a PR qualification. She was awesome.
Interesting.
But you need English. You do need to be able to write good English. Although we do have a grammar granny that we can always call on. But enthusiasm, creativity, an ability to think about more than one thing at a time. You know, that juggling thing that doesn't freak you out and make you scared. What else do you need? Just enthusiasm, really. I don't know that, you know, when you go to PR and most of the stuff that you learn that you haven't already learned at school is things like crisis management. And as an account exec, unless you go into a crisis management firm, you're never going to get called on to do crisis management, because you don't do that until you're up the ranks of PR anyway. So the most important thing I would say is get some work experience as well. Get in touch with some PR agencies, get in touch with some in-house to decide whether you want to work in agency, so you're working with multiple clients, or if you want to work on just one thing. So you'll just be pushing one subject or client or product or whatever.
Oh, good advice. Like it.
Yeah, do that.
Very good advice.
I'm quite happy to talk to people about it.
Oh, imagine if I was just as an apprentice, Ellen.
Oh
my God, I wouldn't take you on. Jeez,
why not? I'm really creative.
Because we never get any work done. We just play.
I'm not being funny, but there would be naked men everywhere.
And that's a bad thing because...
Yeah, Ellen.
Yeah.
It works for both of you, clearly. Where can listeners find out more about you, Jess? Your PR website and online stuff.
Oh gosh, yeah. Although my website's so out of date, so don't copy me for a website. Look at Jess Silver Ball, baby, on my Instagram.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or contact me, jess@silverballpr.com. And I'll tell you. I think there's some stuff on my website. I generally haven't looked at my website for so long.
Yeah, but I think most of your business is probably word of mouth, which is probably a much better way to get business, because then it's about connections, which is what we do.
Yeah, it is. And it would also, the other thing I would say about getting into PR is if I think specializing in something has been really good. So I admire people that can PR everything from a drain company through to a handheld warming mitten type thing to a hotel. I couldn't do that. So if you are into something, stick with that, stick with your passion, because then you're much more able to talk about it and learn about it.
Right.
Definitely.
Thank you so much, Jess. It's been a pleasure chatting with you.
I like talking to you. It's nice.
Is that the first time you've ever been interviewed yourself?
Apart from when I really buggered up an interview for I was on ITN News for Malvern which was this year. I keep forgetting this year. That was exciting. But the interview I'd done before, which was live, I talked about Princess Diana.
Yeah.
So that was not good.
You didn't mean to?
Huh?
You didn't mean to then?
No, because I was meant to be talking about Princess Anne. In the garden that I just designed. Oh my God, it was awful.
Hey, Jess, we did interview you sort of once on the stage at Malvern when you were there. We dragged you up on the stage to say hello to everyone. And admittedly, you were ultra embarrassed about that. And I felt mildly guilty, but not enough not to get you up and do it. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. It's been really good. And I think listeners will really enjoy what happens behind, all of those brands out there and gardens and stuff, seeing. And also we have a lot of people who come on the podcast who are career changers or who contact us who would like to change careers, but, maybe, that this will give them a little bit of information of something that they could think of doing. So that's really cool. Yeah. Thank you. My dog has literally just woken up and come in, which means I know she needs a wee. So I'm going to go now. Okay. Thank you so much, Jen.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. See you later, darling.
Bye. Yeah, bye-bye.
Bye.
Series 9 is brought to you with Lava Light. Derived from volcanic deposits, Lava Light can help you to nourish and protect your plants all year round. The collection comprises 8 different horticultural growing media and pest control products. So why not look out for their colourful packs, either online or in your local gardening store.
Well, we are missing Michael today after all. So Michael's been a really busy bee and unfortunately he's now feeling a little under the weather. So it's just me with the gossip for this week. Hope you get well soon, Michael. Michael's been over in France looking at all the cyclamen amongst eating lots of food. And I've been down in the south in Charleston and Savannah and then down to Florida as well. So I must tell you about the window boxes of Charleston. So Savannah was absolutely beautiful. It's just very green. There's loads of Spanish moss hanging from the trees, Tillandsia that is, and they're full of lice or chiggers. So you don't really want to touch it because you're probably going to get bitten and they're quite itchy. But it looks absolutely stunning and I love Savannah. But there's just something really special about Charleston. Just so full of all that southern charm. If you see like a Southern Living magazine, that's Charleston. Just at this time of year, so it was end of November, there's just still so much in flower, and the use of foliage in the window boxes and hanging baskets I really, really loved. So of course it is warmer than in the UK. It's warmer even than in North Carolina where I live by a few degrees. But it's not, so it's not freezing, but it is still chilly, but the skies are often clearer as well. But some of these plants will still take temperatures, down to 1, 2, 3 degrees even. And there were just so many. So loads and loads of begonias. And I know loads of people are going to go, ooh, begonias. But there's so many available, so many different varieties. There is most definitely a begonia for everyone. But what I really loved seeing was the use of, especially in the UK, what we grow as houseplants. So loads of Tradescantia, so is it called Wandering Dew, I think? And also the foxtail fern, loads of those all mixed into baskets with colocasia, for example. Lots of different colours and textures. Honestly, just so very, very beautiful. And really it seemed like a bit of mix and match, which I really loved. So it was kind of like whatever anyone had available, they would put them in, like pothos, for example, with ferns, all different types of ferns. And then there were lots of salvias, of course, pansies and violas, lots of croton, petunias, and lots of them were colour-coded, so like cyclamen, say pink cyclamen, and then lots of green foliage. And then the next one along would be white cyclamen with lots of foliage. There were coleus, English ivy, absolutely stunning. And I was just thinking that really these are just window boxes. Some have kind of like hanging window boxes, and then others have put kind of a small shelf, if you like, underneath the window, and they've stood them on those. But we have such a big opportunity, especially in the UK, to do that. You know, as long as they're safe and secure, window boxes can look absolutely, completely stunning. So I was wholly inspired. I think my favourite one had like the orange and yellow coleus, and also the orange and yellow coreopsis, along with loads of green foliage plants as well. And it was just wonderful. So you can see more of those on my Instagram, Ellen Mary Gardening. There's a reel and a post because it was just totally and utterly delightful. And then the houses are all different colours. There's one called Rainbow Row. I'm sure that that's probably one of the most Instagrammed spots in the south. So blue and green and purple and pink houses, full of just history and that wonderful southern charm. So yeah, I feel completely and utterly inspired. If you haven't grown a window box before, it's just the same really as containers. Think about your aspect. Is it in full sun or is it in shade? Use a good quality peat-free compost mix, and they are going to need water, not so much over the winter or if they're getting rain, of course, but they will need a little bit more water than if you're planting those plants in the garden. And certainly throughout spring and summer, there's no reason why we couldn't actually experiment in the UK with some houseplants. Some can be very, very tolerant outside as well. So there you go. I hope that's inspired you a little bit to have some window boxes and make use of all the space you possibly can. The tillandsia in Savannah that I mentioned before, hanging from the trees, makes it so atmospheric. It kind of feels swamp-like, but it's not, of course, because you're in a city. And again, just full of charm. What I noticed in Savannah is something that we could totally do more of in the UK, is the verges on the pavements and areas outside the houses, outside of the property line, are just full of plants. So they maximise every space they possibly can to make it more green, you know, for the neighbourhood and the community, to make the city look beautiful, but also encourage wildlife. There was lots of topiary, there were lots of roses, and there were all kinds of different plants just growing on verges. And you can see that some people, obviously, who live in the house opposite that area or that pavement, has really put some effort into making that look really beautiful. And wouldn't it be amazing if we could all do that as well? Oh, and also, of course, at this time of year, there's the hydrangeas just gone over. Those flowers are fading, and it just looked all completely stunning. But there's so many lessons. While I know the temperature is different, and I know that there's more humidity for sure in the summer and less snow over winter, or wind and rain, but we are able to grow plants in all conditions. There's a plant for every situation, and it would be awesome if we could do that more in the UK. So I'm so excited. I've got loads of ideas for next year at my house as well. So I realise I've said lots of in this piece. I don't know why. I think it's just because I'm actually very excited about it all. We will see you hopefully back together for a gossip on next week's podcast.
The music for the Plant-Based podcast is part of the song Grow by Mikey James, and our editor is Gareth Patch of Semi Echo.